By the time the framers got to Article 4, they'd already built Congress, invented the presidency, and set up the courts. But there was still a giant problem: the states. Think of the United States in 1787 less like a country and more like 13 siblings forced to share a house after college. One hogging all the food, one hiding money, one threatening to move out, and two of them are fighting over who actually owns the couch. Article 4 was basically a roommate agreement. Rules to keep everyone from stabbing each other with a quill pen over unpaid rent. So let's talk about Article 4. Welcome to our republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
one small step for man. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will be.
we pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
The Constitution just didn't create a federal government. It also had to decide how the states themselves would fit into this system. Article 4 is where the framers laid out the rules for that relationship. It was about how the states interacted with each other and how they interacted with the federal government, and how the United States guarantees certain basic things to every state. So let's walk through section by section. Section 1, the full faith and credit clause. This part says every state has to respect the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings from every other state. In plain English, your marriage license, court ruling, or contract doesn't just vanish when you cross the state line. If you're married in Virginia, you're still married in Pennsylvania. If a court ruling is against you in Georgia, you can't escape it by running to South Carolina. It was about creating one unified legal system instead of 13 separate countries pretending to cooperate. Without it, the United States would have dissolved into chaos, debts ignored, judgments thrown out, and laws applied only in pockets. Section 2 is the privileges and immunities, extradition, and fugitive slaves. This section makes sure citizens of one state are treated fairly in others. For example, a New Yorker can't be denied basic rights just because they're visiting Massachusetts. States can have their own laws, yes, but they can't turn into an exclusive clubs just for residents only. It established extradition. If you committed a crime in one state and ran to another, you could be sent back to face judgment. The framers wanted to prevent criminals from hiding behind state borders. That's basically what it is. And yes, there's also the fugitive slave clause here. It required that enslaved people who escaped from free states be returned to their owners. It was one of those compromises the framers made to hold the Union together, and it would become one of the darkest scars on the Constitution until the Civil War and the 13th Amendment finally abolished slavery. Section 3, New States and Federal Property. The Constitution gave Congress the power to admit new states into the Union, and this was huge. It meant America wasn't locked into 13 states forever. Over time, it opened the door for westward expansion from Kentucky and Tennessee in the 1790s, all the way to Alaska and Hawaii in the 20th century. It also gave Congress authority over territories and federal lands. This part of the Constitution would shape everything from the Northwest Ordinance to debates over slavery in the new states, and later the settlement of the West. Section 4, the Guarantee Clause. The final section might be the most important of this article. It guarantees every state a Republican form of government. That doesn't mean a Republican-like political party. What it means is a representative government where power comes from the people, not kings or dictators. Dictators. It also promises protection. If a state is invaded or faces domestic violence, or the federal government steps in. And that's what we're seeing now. We have a president who is bringing law and order back into states, which I personally think is a good thing. Think of it as a safety net. No state stands alone. During rebellions, insurrections, or foreign attacks, the United States is bound to defend its own. And that's it for Article 4. Article 4 doesn't get flashy headlines like the Bill of Rights or the presidential powers, but without it, the states wouldn't have, the states would have gone full on Hunger Games, right? Before the ink was dry, right? They would have gone after each other. It's the part that makes the 50 states one nation with shared laws, shared protections, the promise that every state gets a government of the people, not of a crown. Really appreciate you taking time to listen to this short one again. Remember, history isn't boring, especially when one article of the Constitution was all that stood between America becoming a republic or just 13 cousins fighting over grandma's inheritance. See you next time.